And you're gonna screen record, right?
It's not letting me for some reason.
Oh no. Okay.
So if that's okay.
That's fine.
You want me to just record?
Well, I'm recording it from here, but a screen recording is more better. But that's okay.
I'm very sorry.
It's alright.
Okay. So Pricelabs, I don't endorse Pricelabs. I don't work for them. I just use them for a lot of our pricing. So I'm not an expert in it, but this is also just going to be how we price stuff, how I've just seen the market move personally. I haven't done a class on it, so just take this with some tips and tricks.
Perfect. Thank you. That was excellent.
Alright. So I just want to start off with why is pricing important? I know everybody here probably knows to some extent. Revenue-wise, we want to do dynamic pricing. I feel like I've seen a lot of new hosts, or just maybe they don't have enough experience, where they'll have the same price for every single day of the week and then every single day of the weekend. But typically that doesn't work out just because of demands, events that goes on, and then everything else. So you do leave a lot of things on the table, as well as the SEO for Airbnb. They do prioritize those changing of prices. Another reason why is because it maximizes occupancy. I know a lot mainly about Airbnb, not so sure about how VRBO does their SEO, but for Airbnb especially, it is really based on viewability for your home. So how many clicks people see, your pricing also too, and I'll go a little bit more into that. But that's one big reason why we should care about pricing, and another one is because of consumer perception. I kind of recently learned this, and I'm taking this as a really good lesson to learn how to value our home. Because when you have higher prices, people are going to expect a certain amount of luxury. They expect everything to be perfect, right? But sometimes, if you price it a little lower, guests are more likely to leave 5-star reviews because they think they're getting a really good value out of it. Right, so that's pretty much why pricing is really important on this. So what is Pricelabs? Why do we use it? It's one of the biggest dynamic revenue management systems, I would say, probably in just this whole short-term rental field. They have a lot of data, which is always so good to use. I know there's stuff like the other ones, like Beyond, Airbnb. Hostaway recently started doing dynamic tool pricing as well. But personally, from my experience and just what I've seen, is that a lot of times they don't have enough data to have comparables. Airbnb especially underprices you, primarily because they'd rather see more occupancy rates than they would see you make even more money. So pretty much that's why I personally use Pricelabs, and why I recommend it for most people. But some of the key features that they have is especially data depth. Again, because they are one of the biggest pricing tools out there for short-term rentals, they have a lot of comparables to use, right? So you can see a lot more of what another house that has the same bedroom, bathroom amount can be doing in your area. There's a lot of customizations, and I'll go more into that when I show Pricelabs. And then they also are recently adding the listing optimizer. Airbnb also started kind of doing the listing optimizer. I haven't really seen it too much, only maybe for profiles where there's only 3 listings, but that's one new feature that they added. I used it maybe a few times just to kind of play around and see, but I think if you feel like you're struggling figuring out why, maybe on things to improve on your listing, it could be a really good feature to use.
Let me ask you a question about the data. Is it using only data for is it only including data for customers, or is it including all the data around it?
So it includes data for all the Airbnbs around you.
Okay.
So I'll also go more into that too.
Gotcha.
Kind of what it says. So there's that. So this may remind me to sit down. Alright, so for example, we'll go into mine. Alright, so typically you'll start, this will all be empty, but your base price, they'll give you a base price on the areas around you, and typically, again, it's because this is already set up, it's not going to show, but they'll have a map right here, and I'll show you kind of what, for how many bedrooms you've listed, how it's doing in that area, and you can also adjust it based on the market. Personally, when it comes to anything based on the market, Pricelabs is good, but I would say it's always better to go on the platform, right? I always like look at the homes on the platform just because it's gonna show me exactly what my competitors are pricing at. Because I don't know what other variables that I could be missing. So I say this is a good start, but also just make sure to look at your platform.
When you say platform, you mean if you're on Airbnb, look at the other properties on
Yeah.
Airbnb? Okay.
And see like what's kind of going on, right? Because too, also, every home is so unique and it has so many different amenities, right? Like for this one, it has a karaoke machine, and I don't, so I don't know if Pricelabs, and I don't think they really do take those kind of amenities as a big factor of that pricing. It just goes off of base of how many bedrooms you might have, right?
What are we looking at here? Is this like one property?
So this is gonna be one property.
Okay.
It's the calendar and it's all the pricing for each night. All the customizations are gonna be on this side here. And there's quite a bit. You can do your minimum stay settings, and you can customize even the profile for it. So for example, like I just do Nevada, the ordinance where you have 2-night rentals, but let's say for example, you want all your homes, or you want some specific homes to have maybe like 1-night stays, but just on the weekdays, then you can set that up and do, day of the week, and do like, allow bookings for just 1 night through here, and then maybe for the weekend, it would be like 3 nights. Like if you check in on a Friday, you have to do 3 nights.
And then once you set your systems up, does it automatically populate with Airbnb?
So
or
once,
this is to just set your pricing, and then it will tell you pricing, and then you go in and put
You
your
can go and
pricing?
shut that door, Taylor.
oh, okay.
Otherwise, you'll be wrestling with it.
So Pricelabs is the primary for all the systems, and I found this out too. Like if you, for example, go on Airbnb and you say, well, my minimum night is 3, but then on Pricelabs you set it to 1, it's going to prioritize Pricelabs.
So Pricelabs will override that in
Pricelabs will
Airbnb.
override it.
It's the source of truth. Yeah, it's the.
Okay.
Yeah, same if you did it, for example, on Hostaway or your property management system. Pricelabs will override everything, so just always make sure that you're good on Pricelabs. I made that mistake once, never again.
Does it coordinate with Hostaway as well, or do you use Hostaway?
Yeah, so you sync your Pricelabs to your property management system and to Airbnb, or you can do it directly to Airbnb if you don't have one.
So if I had Hostaway, it would sync to Hostaway, and then Hostaway would sync to Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Okay.
Yeah. And it syncs really fast. Like I've really never had an issue where like I had it sync and then like some guest suddenly booked and it wasn't that price. It's always been pretty quick, luckily. But there's a lot of customizations you can do. I like to use last minute pricings. There's like orphan day pricing, so days that have gaps, you can add more discounts to it. Safety minimum pricing, demand factor. I'm not gonna go too deep into each single one because this could probably take like over an hour. But once you kind of get into Pricelabs and play around with it, like there's so much you can do. One of the features I personally really like is this day of week pricing adjustments, because honestly in Vegas, you're always gonna get booked out for the weekends compared to your weekdays. So the weekends I tend to price it a lot more than I do the weekdays for sure. But yeah, and they even have like seasonality, demand factors. Oh, go ahead.
So the percentage you were just showing where it said like 15% on like Friday or I don't know, is that over the automation? So like Pricelab is creating an automated rate. They're doing an automation, right? And so you're saying your automation's fine, add 15% to it?
Add 15%
Is that what's happening there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then what you do too to check, because again, when you like click on each one, it'll help kind of break down to why it's priced that much for the night, right?
Okay.
So it'll say like, your base price is $350, your seasonality, it's not that popular that night, so it'll go down 12%, but your demand is pretty high, so it'll go up that much percent, your last minute factor pricing and all that stuff. And then it'll go down to, again, reason why, like, hey, why it's priced at $448 that night, which is really nice to kind of see and play around with, right?
Wow, that's amazing.
So once you set it, do you have to constantly go in there and make those adjustments, or you just kind of set it and forget it? Because
So
then it will adjust it as it sees.
Yeah, so it'll adjust as you go, but I always still check it probably at least once a week. I would say probably do it more. But the reason why I do it once a week is kind of just to gauge the market, right? A lot of people coming into Vegas, or even just Airbnb statistically right now, is just saying there's a lot of last minute bookings compared to the previous years because of just how the economy is doing, right? Where people are like, I don't know if I can travel because of like just all the stuff that's going on with politics. So right now, you would have to, in my personal opinion, I would highly recommend checking it at least once a week, just to kind of gauge, like, too, like how you want to discount things too, right? But my biggest rule of thumb, and what I usually recommend, is when you look at these listing metrics right here. So these will tell you like total occupancy in the next 7 days, 30 days, 60 days. My big rule of thumb is the first one needs to be blue, this one needs to be green, and this one needs to be red. Primarily reason why, because for example, blue means you're pretty much occupied, like you're good for the most of the days. But let's say for example, like out of my next 60 days, it's blue. It's telling me I'm probably underpricing myself because you're getting booked out pretty much 3 months in advance, which is good in some sense. But at the same time too, that also could just be an indication you're pricing yourselves way lower than your competitors. So of course people are gonna book with you, right? There's also, you can add notes. I very rarely use that. Date overrides. I actually recently used this for EDC next year, actually. I don't know if everybody got the message, but EDC started doing it 2 weekends. Yeah. So May is gonna be a really good month for everybody. But you do date overrides here. I personally like to do date overrides throughout the month. So the reason why I also like do pricing this way is because honestly, like your weekdays are always going to be such a struggle. Like if you just look at the market, nobody really likes to book on the weekdays, and unless it's a last minute booking. So if I always discount myself further out, the more that I do, the more that I'm booked. At least I'm secured for that week, because your weeks are going to be the biggest struggle. But that's just a little bit of the customizations you can do to get more into the nitty-gritties of like neighborhood data, hotel data. So again, I very rarely honestly use the neighborhood and hotel data. Personally, I just look on the platform. But this is good if you want to see just like a more general oversight, because you can't look at every single house on the market. But this will tell you, future prices, occupancy. So this one.
The top red, I'm looking at the top one. So the top red graph, you have the black. The black shows today.
So the black line shows where your listing's at,
Right.
and then the red will show like your market percentile, right? So it's showing me that right now if I'm like going into June, I'm kind of in the middle, like where the middle of my market is. So I'm about the 50th percentile. But then as you go later in the days, I'm like base a little higher, because I'm just like, well, somebody wants to book that far out. But ideally you do kind of want to be more in the middle, ideally, just so you're again where your market's at. But like I said, I always kind of take some of this data with a grain of salt, just because I don't know how well it factors in like your amenities, right? Like this just kind of factors in, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, but it does not know like if you added in a karaoke machine, like which houses have a karaoke machine. So unfortunately it won't do that. But again, this is just a good gauge marker to see like where is my home at, and ideally because I know how many amenities I have in my home, I ideally want to be a little bit on the higher scale, like where those reds are.
So what do you compare here? You compare bedrooms right now.
So I compare bedrooms right now. So ideally, if you don't have a lot of amenities, I would say this is probably a good way to gauge your pricing. If you have a lot of amenities and you feel that, I saw one house that had a bowling alley in it. You probably want to be a little bit, your red line or your black line wants to probably be like on the higher percentile, or I guess technically lower.
So this is a market dashboard, but what about like comparables? Let's say, like you said, you find a bowling alley is definitely something you won't find, but let's say you find a house with a hot tub and a sauna, 5 bedrooms. Why not like look for 10 houses that does have those amenities?
So unfortunately for Pricelabs, I don't think they do anything with amenities. Like they won't help you find like which homes have those amenities and help you do that. You would just have to look on Airbnb. right? And that's why I say, like, honestly, I usually barely look at this data because I base it from the platform.
So
So that's
I've-
gonna be the best.
I've
one
just
for
started
people.
using this page or looking at this page. You can set manual comps, and it probably has to be manual comps where
Yeah.
you identify 3 or 4 properties that you think are actual real
Yeah.
comps to your property.
That's great.
Oh, that's good.
By default, it'll just select, your bedroom count, the one
Yeah.
before you. Like if there's a 4 bedroom, it'll look at 3, 4, and 5,
Yeah.
which maybe that's
Yeah.
enough granularity for you, or maybe you want to just say, oh, I just want to look at 4 bedrooms, or my 4 bedroom is amazing. I actually am competing against 5 bedrooms, right? Then you would select 5 bedrooms.
I'll share a little bit later, but we do this. But what he said, we do comparable.
Oh, for
We
the-
do go deeper. We live by this. You see,
yeah.
if we're not at the top, we are crying.
Oh, so you want to be the top 10%.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you want to
okay.
because you want to lead. But with
That
your,
was my question.
With your
Also. It's
pricing.
like, is it, everyone's property is different, but like.
Of course,
do you
it's
want
also
the top
depend on the
10%? Do
property.
you want to be in the
And
middle?
it depends on the
right? Like-
property.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Because if it's just a 3 bedroom, like you said, middays in 3, in
Right.
3 months they want to book. Yeah, but if it's like 7 bedrooms,
Right.
a reunion 3 months, people are planning 3 months. They are even planning more longer. So it really depends on the property.
Yeah, for sure. There's also our hotel data. I also very rarely use this because we're not a hotel. But it's also kind of fun to look at.
Well, it's interesting because people do say things like, "Oh, we've got to go with like the cheapest
Yeah.
thing," or they will look at hotels.
Yeah.
It's a different product, but for whatever reason, they're still considering that product. You
Yeah.
know, I think.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. Like, I feel like a lot of people, or I guess nowadays, or statistically actually, a lot of them are a lot more demanding. Like, they expect like higher quality, like hotel status, because that's the only comparable for them, right? It's like, well, I can only compare Airbnbs to hotels.
So
'cause that's all I know.
or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all you see. Yeah.
That's all I know. So I don't blame them, but I'm like, you make things harder. This one's kind of nice, but you do have to have your property on here probably for, I want to say, at least a year. But it tells you like, how you've been doing for the year. I want to say having a over 80 is like really good. So I'm really happy with this
that's
property.
That's
We're at,
impressive.
Like 80%, I'm pretty
yes.
chilling at. And then, seeing your year to date. So ideally, you want to see all these up, but
That's a really good thing to share with your clients too.
yeah. Like anything particular you want to share, but this is pretty much Pricelabs.
How long did it take you to onboard? I mean, what was the onboarding like? I mean, how difficult was it?
Probably not difficult at all. I did it probably in a day, onboarding with them.
Oh my goodness!
And how many
'cause they
properties do you have?
give it-
Because you're smart.
we have,
Well, they flow.
we
in.
started with
I mean,
42, and now we have 55. Yeah. But I mean, they're really simple. Like I don't think they really like teach you anything. They're just like, here you go. And then if you want a more in depth, you can like call them and ask them for customer support. But a lot of what I personally learned, and again, like, please take a class. You can please do more research on this. I just really looked at the platform and like kind of gauged what the market looks like, what I learned from a previous host, and how they price their stuff. So, but I would say please take a class if you don't have those resources.
And pricing, is it real expensive if you just have 1 or 2 properties? Does it only really make sense if you can do like economies of scale and then you can?
Pricelabs is the cheapest out of
Pricelabs
vendors.
is cheap.
Oh.
So I started with Beyond Pricing, then I moved to Real House, and then I moved to Pricelabs because they were, not because they were better, they were about the same, they were all about the same, but Pricelabs was much, much cheaper. So I used to pay 2%, of each booking, and Pricelabs is more of like a flat fee.
Yeah,
So it's much, much cheaper.
yeah.
But will they take small clients or only enterprise clients? Like
No, they
No,
They
of
take
course.
anybody.
with one property.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
tell you.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you should, because every day you're not there, you're losing money.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
just, if you're set with Airbnb prices, you are for us. You're like those amateurs that play poker, and the locals are eating them on the table.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
thinking
if-
about my dad because we have a couple rentals in Utah, and I'm like, oh, I doubt he knows about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this only good for your short term, or is it good for long term and midterm?
I personally, I haven't used it for long term or midterm. For those ones, because I think we only have maybe like
Yeah, it doesn't make sense
two
for midterm.
midterms.
Because
I
people
really just
don't
look
want
at
to
the
see
market.
changing prices if they're going to book 30 days. They
Yeah.
want to see a nightly price.
Gotcha.
So like
Yeah.
midterm, you have to set, oh, you know, this is what my monthly price should be, and then
Okay.
make all the days
Yeah.
the same. Because they're going to complain. They're like, why is this day much more
Sure,
expensive?
Yeah.
sure, fair enough.
Right. Like they don't care that there's EDC in town. They're booking for the whole
Yeah,
month.
they're
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
a little month.
Okay.
So I would say probably just go for like the rentals.
On the onboarding, does it take data for Airbnb to start off, to initiate, or do you plug them in individually, or how does that work?
So that's where I'm like, there's a lot of customizations, but it depends on like what kind of people. And I think I go back into this a little bit.
Your PMS, it's gonna take it from your channel manager.
I see.
It'll take it from your Airbnb if you don't have a channel, if you don't have Hostaway or Hostfully or whatever, any of those, Escapia. Right? Am I right? Or am I making that up? Yeah.
I think
Usually
it takes from Airbnb.
I think
If you don't have
I
a
think
channel
Pricelabs is it's called scrapped data,
Yes, great.
and we just started working with key data as well.
Key data is amazing.
Exactly. Now,
Key
key
data
data
is
is
the
real
best.
data. Real data. Now,
That's-
let me explain the difference, okay? So, over here, for example, I can show you your comparables in the market. Your properties are sold booked. Now, you click on it, especially when you create a profile. Let's say you have a property, you want to work with us, you want us to price your house. We find 10 comparables. Now, it's not that easy to find them. Even let's say it's a 4 bedrooms with a pool and a hot tub. You have plenty of those.
Oops, sorry.
But when you click on that, suddenly you'll say you go into Airbnb, it's a minimum 30 days. You know, so it's still there, it's still in Pricelabs, but it's not data that you can really use.
Yeah.
In key data, it's a different story. Now they have less homes, of course, but they have real data. So we're trying to play with both now.
And key data is another pricing.
Is another, yeah. I wouldn't recommend if you have one home or
Okay.
you know, but yeah, it's something else. In general, I tend to recommend to work with a company that does the pricing for you if you have a property, because I believe it can. Week, for example, I have clients, we brought them 15-20% more. I know and we are babies in the field. We're really beginners. There's a company, they are my gurus in California, and they are killing the market. They take clients and they bring them 30, some 45% more people. There are so many tools you can use these days.
So you're saying it's cheaper to just hire a professional to do it for
I
you?
think so, yeah.
Because
We need to
the
onboard-
amount of money that you're paying them still pays for itself in terms of
Yeah,
additional
they
revenue.
share with you a percentage of their success. pretty
I
much.
see. Interesting.
That's how it works, yeah.
But personally, I customize based on, I would say recommend it based on your target audience, amount of discounts you want to provide, and then the minimum you expect to make. Let's see.
What do you mean by target audience, or how do you segment?
So typically, like target audience, like if you want people that are gonna like not here for parties, stuff like that, your perception or your value of your home, you want it to be more, right? Like you want to make higher prices because most likely those people aren't gonna trash your house.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of
Right.
talking about like minimum, like.
Yeah, like how you want
You
to
don't-
price it, and then add your customizations.
Okay.
All that stuff. But yeah, like I said, always look at the booking platform. That's how I learned how to do a lot of my pricing. Is really just seeing my comparables for that area for next week, and then changing my pricing off of that because it's going to be the most accurate, right? Like Pricelabs, sure I can see what's like what it is for next week or the key, but everybody's looking off Airbnb, right? And then Pricelabs Insights, like I said, it's still pretty good to use, and I might actually check out the key one.
Key data.
Well,
Yeah.
key data. But I think also they're still pretty good to use just as an overall general comparable. So some goal markers that I like to share is ideally try to aim for 120 or 180. That's like the average from what I looked up on like what really good Airbnbs make. If you can make more than 80, that's amazing from what I've been told.
What size is this? Is it just
Yeah,
general?
that'd be very-
I just looked it up.
Oh,
Sorry, this was just me looking up. I was like, these are kind of goals. Like, you kind of want to hit it for how.
In Vegas, that
But-
would be really, really high in my estimation. I mean,
120?
180,
180?
Yeah, I think those numbers are pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
If
If
you
you,
120 is
It's-
nowadays is more like a 5-bedroom
5-bedroom, yeah.
type of home.
You're talking
Right,
about
but
gross
that's
revenue?
cutting out
Yeah.
like half of the market, which is 3-2s and all the condos, right? So I
Yeah,
mean,
nowadays if you're having a 3-bedroom, even a 4-bedroom's like it sucks. you're not having much of any.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you move up in luxury, the numbers get much bigger.
Yeah.
well, that makes sense, but I'm saying these numbers are only that. That's what I'm saying. This doesn't apply to the 3-2s.
I'll tell you what, if you wanna focus,
Yeah.
if you wanna get to these numbers, you need more bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and
Need
if
more
you don't have the
occupancy.
bedrooms, you want amenities. Now, I think your goal is anyone's goal eventually, or maybe I'm not saying it right, but you wanna compete on the amenities. You don't wanna compete on the price. So let's say there's a reunion. We have bigger properties usually. You have a reunion coming. You have two potential clients, and we charge 1,500. And we have a sauna and a hot tub and a pickleball, and he charges 1,400. Will they go with him? No. He can charge 1,300. Will they go with him? No. They probably will. So you are trying to compete on the amenities, and that's the ideal. And then you'll see even higher numbers. You know, the 180 is not the top. You can do more than 180 for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Occupancy rate, top 10 on properties hit 80%, or more occupancy, again, that's the goal, and then guest value. So they can rate just on the value, which I think is pretty cool. So that's also, in my opinion, a really good gauger of like where you're at in pricing, because it just depends on like how people's perception of your pricing is. So I'm gonna touch one more thing on like how I like to use the platform for pricing. For people, you know, that may not have as many comparables as we do, because honestly, like for us, I know what weeks are gonna be slow just based off of looking at a calendar. So I kind of know a good like 2 weeks out, like, oh, it's gonna be a slow week. This one's busy. This weekend, by the way, is also BTS, so crank those numbers up. But anyways, so this is going, for example, next week during the week. Ideally, go based on your area too. But for example, you can kind of see like everybody's priced around the same. So your rent is around like 800, 700. So that's why I say always at least check it once a week, because Pricelabs isn't going to, it's not going to adjust it from Airbnb. They're going to adjust your prices based on your base price, what it's set to, and stuff like that. Like, so for example.
So it's not dynamic in the sense that it's not constantly changing?
It is constantly changing, but it's not going to constantly compare itself to like Airbnb market, just Airbnb market, because there's so many platforms like VRBO, Airbnb, Expedia, stuff like that. So that's why I say like it's dynamic in the sense of it'll price change, or it'll give you like, it just gives you an opinion, and then you have to go in and really validate it and be like, oh, okay.
Really? So it doesn't just, you don't just sign on to this and then it just does the thing for you, and you don't have to, you have to mess with it? You constantly have to be accepting changes?
If you
I
want the best
constantly-
revenue, yeah, you have to
Yeah.
be messing with. Like I didn't mess with it for a long time
Uh-huh.
because I didn't have the manpower, you know. But like if you're actually looking at the numbers it's suggesting and changing them because you know the market, you will do better, much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could set it and forget it.
Yes,
You
I said it
can.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if you want like higher occupancy stuff like that, like again, let's say for example next week it's gonna be kind of slow. Then I did like a 30% discount. It went pretty much to my minimums, but it worked out because I got a booking at least for that, and it looks like it's around the same market, right? Because if you also look, let me zoom out here real quick. Let's say I go to the 4th page. That's usually where people are like, they may not touch their pricing, right? And then that's where you're gonna end up probably on like the 3rd or 4th or the last page, wherever you go. But that's, weird. But that's why I say like, always still check the platform, even though Pricelabs, it's a great tool personally to help you gauge what is best around the market, but still look exactly on your platforms to see like what is actually booking out those prices,
And are you able to save on Airbnb only the properties that are similar to yours?
You put
Or-
it. You created like a wish list for
Yeah.
those.
Okay.
Yeah, you
So
can make
that
a
you
wish
don't
list.
have to just, I mean, eventually you'll know, like, this one's a 5-bedroom, doesn't compare, this one has a pool, doesn't compare. But,
Yeah.
so what you're looking at now is the same section of homes that you compare it to.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this one's just an overall. I mean, personally, like,
Do you use wish lists for that or no?
You can use wish list for it. The only reason why I don't do something like that is like I usually use the platform to gauge like the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like, what does that look like? If I know like
So you're
I'm
not booked
struggling.
out 2 to 3 weeks from now?
So I want to always stay booked out at least 2 weeks. If I go 3 weeks out, that could be an indication. I'm like, well, like maybe it might be too low, or I don't know what the market looks like for you, like beyond. I don't know if somebody has like a last minute events, stuff like that. So I would say like your last minute bookings especially are gonna be within the 2 weeks, and knowing how travelers are, they're all booking last minute. Like I've talked to like our marketing manager and just other hosts, and they're just like, yeah, it's all been last minute.
I think it's related to flight prices too. Like there is definitely a sweet spot in terms of like once you're not so far out, it's better you book like just barely a few weeks out if at all
Yeah.
to land in like that sweet spot traveling wise for your tickets.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna be, that's just it, really actually booking far out, which a lot of people are not.
We are in a totally different state of mind. Most people, 3 weeks forward, set price, kind of, and that's where we go into the picture. Now, again, when it's two bedrooms, 3 bedroom, but when it's bigger properties, when you need to plan ahead,
Yeah.
you're not close. It's not 2 weeks. A family of 20 people are not 6 months ahead. Now, remember I told you the comparables. So one of the things you look, like you said, is exactly what you said with the red, green, and blue. When you look at the market and you see that, let's say 4 months from now, you're at red, and the market is, you're falling behind the market. So why do you want to fall behind the market? Especially when you know this month is super, let's say, bad. You don't want to fall behind the market. So you want to lower your price, for example.
Yeah.
So if you start looking at, again, it depends on the property, you start looking at those, that's I think where a lot of your income is hiding. Because, it's just I feel like you and Tian, your mom, Tian, I know you. I mean, you're much better than the market. Your level of work is. And when you hear some advice from Airbnb representative, I work with a representative. One of the representatives I met here in Virma. I feel like they talk about the market. The market is huge. You're not representing the market. You're representing the 5% probably. The 10% of the. Yeah, so I wouldn't compare myself to the market.
Oh no.
The other part is that my strategy is really dumb, but I am constantly overpriced. But if you are last minute and people are booking last minute trips, they don't look at the market. And if you're the only one house left that's a 4-bedroom,
it's not
even
stupid.
if it, so like I will book last minute and I keep my prices high and I still end up getting booked out, but like it might be the day before, and it's a gamble.
It's
is
not a gamble. Look, what you're telling now, it's a tactic. It's a tactic for EDC. It's a tactic for the most
for
wanted.
EDC, everything's getting booked out, but
No,
yes.
but for the wanted, you don't want to be booked ahead when everybody,
So Airbnb works off inventory,
Mhm.
right? So when all the other houses get booked out at lower prices, and you're the only one left at a higher price, and someone needs to come in, they're gonna book your house. So, and maybe you won't get booked out, but when you're the only one left in a smaller group of properties, you're suddenly more competitive.
But it's such a difference, you can make so much money, because imagine you're a 6-bedroom, you don't have a lot of 6 bedrooms, so you wait, you put your price, you double your price, and then at 3 weeks, 4 weeks before EDC, there's no more 6-bedroom, you start lowering your price by 5%, boom.
So my occupancy is much, much lower. I do not hit 80%. But it's just a different strategy, and it might be really dumb. I might be leaving money on the table. We don't know.
You're comfortable
but
with.
I
My and I don't know how this would factor into what you guys do, but My concern is the quality of the guest. And the
That's what I was just
quality of
gonna
the guest, a guest who plans a year in advance because they're coming from the UK, who wants my house because their neighbors said they want my house, I want that guest. And it doesn't matter to me if I could get $50 more per night. I know that's my 5-star guest. And
Yeah.
so for me that has a value. I understand that like you guys are better business people than I am.
No, you're right.
So,
You're right.
You
want
know,
one.
I do value
Yeah.
the quality of guest, and I don't know that there is necessarily any correlation between this and the quality of guest. It could be completely irrelevant.
No, I was gonna
Oh,
say the
it is
same thing
fun.
too, because if you get down to $100 a night for 3 bedrooms and then you have 6 people, I mean, they're paying $25
Yeah.
each. They're not gonna give a crap about your place, so, but I get it, that making sure you're competitive with your neighbors.
No, but
But I
you missed
also
something.
don't-
No,
I
it's
don't-
not like that. You block it. It's not going 100. You decide where it's
So
gonna be.
even though it does this dynamic, you can put a floor.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can always change
Yeah.
it. I mean, this
That's
again,
the
this is
minimum
just the
safety.
settings that I do
Yeah.
personally to get
So,
for us.
and
But
you're saying this is different pricing than Airbnb, because Airbnb will just drop your price because they
Mhm.
want the occupancy, where this one takes into consideration the comparables and not the occupancy, or both.
Well, if you go back to the Pricelabs thing, you'll see in the upper left corner, she set a minimum of 130, right? That's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like saying,
Oh, I
we're not
gotcha.
going below
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
So even if their suggested price was 110,
Yeah.
the floor is 130.
my floor is one.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to get 100% occupancy is charge $1 a night, right? But obviously
Yeah,
that's the wrong metric,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of customizations you can do in Pricelabs, which is really nice. But honestly, I mean, from hearing all the tactics here, if you really just do it based off of like what you
Your
want,
comfort level.
your
Mhm.
market, your comfort level, how you want to strategize it. Pricelabs, I personally think is just a really great tool because they have all those customizations you can do. They have all the data with all the other companies. So great tool. That's pretty much it I had on Pricelabs.
Great job. Thank you. Yay.